Hey everyone, it's Justin here, America's Honest Tax Accountant from Number Crunch Nerds. Welcome to video number 5 of the year-end 2025 Roth IRA conversion Fasttrack series. In this video, we're going to be starting phase 3 of the Roth conversion flowchart. Specifically, we're going to be working on step 7 of the process here, calculating income during the early retirement drop. Now let's refresh our memories. What is the early retirement drop? Well, if we go over here to our conversion strategy tab, the early retirement drop is this portion right here of the Roth IRA conversion sweet spot. It is the time period somewhere between 59 and a half years old and 73 years old when employment income has dropped off, but Social Security, pensions, and RMDs have not yet started. In other words, it's the portion of your early retirement years when your taxable income, before considering any Roth IRA conversions, is expected to be considerably lower than it was in the employment years, and also considerably lower than it is expected to become in the later retirement years when Social Security, pensions, and ultimately RMDs start to kick in. And so if we go over here to our overall conversion strategy number 2 tab, our goal ultimately, once we find that income that is being taxed in the higher brackets later in the retirement years, our goal is going to be to shift that income back into the low bracket years. And generally speaking, those low bracket years are going to be found right here in the early retirement drop. So if we go into the personal tax planning template and you and your spouse are still in your employment years, then of course I would expect to see W-2 wages in the current year and extending out for some number of future years. And then once retirement hits and the W-2 wages start to taper off and disappear, then these years right out here where there's no W-2 income and pension and Social Security income haven't started yet over here, these years right in here are going to be your early retirement drop years. And you can see that by just looking down here at the total ordinary income. Back in the employment years for this hypothetical couple, we were in the 200,000-ish range. Then we have one spouse retiring, and then we hit the early retirement drop where total income drops off dramatically. Now, of course, if you are about to retire or are already retired, then just imagine for the moment that all of these years right here, starting with the early retirement drop years, all of this is going to be shifted over to the left and will be over here in 2024, 25, 26. And so depending on where you are with your employment versus retirement status, your early retirement drop years could be this year, 2025. It could be next year, 2026. It could be any of these years out here, just depending on when you choose to retire, when you choose to start pensions and Social Security. And that's what you're trying to identify, because the most room that you're probably going to have in your brackets will be in the 1 to 5 years, let's say, where you have stopped W-2 wages, but you haven't started all of the retirement income. Those are going to be the years where we're going to identify room in the brackets in order to complete Roth IRA conversions so that you don't leave these lower brackets unfilled. Again, if you are down here, this is going to be the 10, 12% bracket. Even in some cases, you may be up in the 24% bracket in the early retirement drop, but in those cases, it is highly likely that when you get further out and start looking at your RMDs, you're going to be up in like the 32% bracket, for example. So the goal is always the same, regardless of sort of what area of the brackets you are in. For example, if in the early retirement drop years you are in like the 10 and 12% brackets, but off to the right in the RMD years you're bumping up into the 24% bracket, your goal at a minimum would be to make sure that those 10, 12, and possibly even 22% brackets are full if you're going to be stuck out here in the 24% bracket. And remember, widow's penalty is going to be a big factor in that, because the 24% bracket for a single filer is going to be a much lower threshold than the 24% bracket for married filing joint. So if you're married filing joint now and can take advantage of the much larger brackets, in other words, there's much more room in the brackets for those married filing joint, and then way out to the right in RMD territory, if one of the spouses becomes deceased, which eventually one of them will, and the other one is facing the single brackets, there's much less room, and it's much more likely that they will be facing 24% or higher in many cases. And the exact same concept will be true even if, for example, let's say you're already in the 24% bracket, even in the early retirement drop. If you go out and look in RMD territory and calculate that you'll be hitting the 32% bracket on a consistent basis, well, you've got an 8% differential right there. And remember, if you're hitting 32% married filing joint, you are highly likely hitting 35% single. And so getting some portion of that money taxed at the 24% rate in the married filing joint brackets during the early retirement drop could prove to be quite beneficial to your family, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars or more. And that doesn't even consider the potential savings on IRMA widow's penalty, which we will be talking about in an upcoming video. If you are new to the channel and haven't gotten your 2025 tax planning started or completed, you still have time to jump into the Fasttrack 2025 program. Download the personal tax planning template and get started figuring out your Roth IRA conversion for 2025 as well as 2026 and beyond. Supplemental training videos on step 1, 2, 3, as well as 4, 5, and 6 have been uploaded to the members area. In addition to that, during the week of November the 8th, 2025, this week, new members supplement videos on step 7, as well as step 8, as well as additional members Q&A videos will be added to the Fasttrack program. As I've said, the goal for the Fasttrack program is to finish up during the month of November 2025 all of our Roth conversion planning, and then we will address any final details as well as any members Q&A that hasn't been covered yet in the first 2 weeks of December. Hop into the program today and get steps 1 through 3 of the flowchart completed as soon as possible. Use some time during the rest of the week to catch up on steps 4, 5, and 6, and then jump to steps 7 and 8, and you will be on track to get your tax planning completed by the 12/31 deadline. Remember that tax planning isn't only about keeping your hard-earned money out of the hands of the government. It's about securing your family's financial future and taking the burden of excess taxes and excess IRMA surcharge off of your surviving spouse and passing the most money possible on to your beneficiaries. Tax planning is about getting your financial house in order instead of just guessing, which, by the way, is what most Americans do when it comes to tax planning. They do nothing. They let the chips fall where they may, and they wonder why it happened that way. And if you want to take that approach to tax planning, rest assured you will have a lot of company. Just remember that many years down the road, when the government is sitting on much more of your family's hard-earned money than was actually necessary, the only person that is ever going to know or care is you. So, if you're ready to start building out your lifetime tax plan by the numbers in detail in a program that is arguably the most accessible, most comprehensive, and most complete individual income tax training program on the market in the United States today, my complete personal tax planning template and video training program, including the Fasttrack 2025 training, is available for purchase at the link in the description below this video. Everybody who joins will get lifetime access to the program for a one-time access fee. So hop in today and let's get these Roth IRA conversions for 2025 in the books.